All right, welcome back to our Facebook Live. We are back on our regular timing today, and I'm actually tuning in from a very special place, and I have a special guest with us here today, Joe Calvin. So, Dr. Kennard, thank you for joining us again today, and it's going to be a really exciting topic. We're going to talk about cannabis, which you all love, and the quality behind it. So, Joe, go ahead and introduce yourself for the people.
Hey guys, my name is Joe. I'm actually one of the director of wholesale operations here at Southern Crop. Very happy to be on today. I think that the topic is very, very needed to discuss here in Mississippi, as one of the things that we pride ourselves on at Southern Crop is high quality product, as well as being accessible to all patients here in the state. My background in cannabis has really been through Southern Crop here in Mississippi. I've grown up in the Southeast my entire life, so very happy to see this medical program. And we've been seeing, this product or this plant changing people's lives every day. So thank you all very much for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is great because we have the perspective of Dr. Kennard from the medical side and very, doctoral. And he goes on about the analytics and all of those points that are extremely important. But now we have Joe with us here today, who's going to talk to us about the plant, and he's touching it, he's seeing it, he's going through the quality. So you have an insider man here of the cannabis that you're getting on your street. So can you tell us a little bit about the quality here at Southern Crop?
Oh yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things, like I said earlier, that we pride ourselves in is quality. We strive to be not only a very clean facility, but also to operate and with intentionally, to say the least. Is we don't go into anything saying, oh, we did it this way the last time, let's do it, maybe try it this way. We follow very strict SOPs here on site, because the only way that you can show quality products is through standard operating procedure. And with that being said, we take the training very seriously here in the facility on the do's and don'ts of how to recognize whether an end product is going to be the best quality to offer a patient. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest things that we kind of our mantra here in the facility, every morning we have a 7:30 meeting with everyone in the facility, and we live by 3 ideals. And the first ideal that we always say at the end of that meeting is customer first quality. Mm-hmm. And really, at the end of the day, if you don't have customer first quality and you're not trying to strive to, protect your patients with quality, but also make them satisfied with the quality, then, then really why are you doing this?
Absolutely. Now, Dr. Kennard, are you seeing things among patients of questions about, the type of cannabis, where it's coming from, why is it better? Why is it better than getting the cannabis off the street? Do you have any questions that you see come through from a patient side?
Yes, well, I have questions that come from patients, but I had questions and concerns from the jump, from the start of the program, from the passage of the act by the legislature to how is this going to look? Now, personally, I felt more comfortable, I guess, than most jumping in with both feet and opening our clinics and being ready, because I'd practiced pain management and I'd seen cannabis and marijuana and reports, anecdotal reports from my patients that it works. How does it work? I didn't know. I just heard too many testimonials to not believe that. And as I started looking at the science and the studies, I saw there's tons of evidence that we have that means something to a clinician to prove efficacy and safety. So I had to start with that. I jumped in aggressively, but the biggest concern I had, and many of my colleagues share, is unlike a typical clinical scenario where I would see a patient, make a diagnosis, develop a treatment, and maybe write a prescription, I write that prescription for a specific drug at a specific dose, and they take it to a pharmacy who is registered with the state, has a federal DEA license. Every drug that they sell has a FDA stamp, and it's labeled properly, and it comes with some informed consent to help the patient understand the potential risks. So how is that, which is standard medicine operating procedure, going to compare to how this is going to look. As close as we can make, we as the industry and the clinicians and the legislators, as close as we can make this a level with that, the more comfortable clinicians are going to be prescribing it for their patients. So where are we? More than a year in, the news is good. We don't have a lot of patient complaints because we've adjusted how we are guiding the patients. So all of the dispensaries that have the products to retail to you have varying levels of experience and attention to detail. And that's just a market thing. You have to, that market will settle and people will feel comfortable where they go. They'll recognize brands. They'll develop relationships with that staff. That's all part of it. But the conflicting issue at hand right now that we're seeing, that I believe the legislature to tackle this session, is the contradiction for patients to know what is CBD, what's Delta 8, what's Delta 10, what's Delta 9, why does it matter? If I've got an email alert saying that I can order it online, why don't I just do that? Why do I need a card for a couple $100 and then go to a dispensary, pay a little bit more than that for a product? Why? And the reason why, and this is what I'm so glad to have Joe here to attest to, because that is an extra expense for patients. What's the value in joining the medical program when I could get it from a CBD vape shop, gas station? And let me be clear, not all of those products are extremely dangerous versus medical cannabis products you can get at a dispensary. Problem is, which ones could be dangerous and which ones are safe? If you have a dispensary that's paid thousands of dollars just for the opportunity to open a door and meeting all the regulations of the state, and whoever the wholesaler was to them has held to a very high standard and their product's been tested, that is a built-in mechanism to ensure quality and safety of a product. That's what clinicians want to know, first off. So we would not feel comfortable prescribing medical cannabis and the patient asks, well, where do I get it? Well, it doesn't matter. Just find it. You can probably get some online, or you can I've seen it at the gas stations. Why don't you go try that? We would never do that because that product's not labeled, not held to those same standards. So I'm going to stop talking, but that is paramount. If we're going to use the word medical in front of anything, we can't responsibly do that unless the process is held intact from a medical standpoint all the way through, from getting a card to taking it, observing how it affects you, going back and making some changes. So that's what I want the people on this live episode and the general public to know. The value of the extra expense is real.
Oh yeah, I mean 100%. I think that's something that we've discussed internally is, when you really take it for face value, like you said, why wouldn't we just go and order this online or go to this gas station or whatever? But do we really know what we're getting? I mean, that's the question. And like you said, I mean, there are safe CBD products out there. There's safe, alternatives out there. But the opportunity to see those products and be able to know immediately whether those products are safe or not, I mean, that's not realistic right now. We're not in a situation where we have accessibility where I can walk into a vape shop and there's a green tag for the safe product and a red tag for the non-safe products. It's really, you do not know. And that's why this medical program has been such a blessing to this state, is while we do see a lot of those types of products here in Mississippi, the medical program has set an outline and a standard for testing, all products that come for the medical marijuana program or the medical cannabis program. And that's also the biggest thing is, even if I have to pay double the price what I would have to pay on the street for medicine, do I break my leg and then go buy traditional, opiates off the street when I go to a doctor? No. I would never do that, because you really don't know what you're getting. And that just would be a foolish thing to do. Same thing here. Even if the cannabis is double the cost on the street, or half the cost on the street, sorry, I still don't know where that's coming from.
Right.
Everything in this program has been tested through and through for any type of contaminant. And then it also allows me as a consumer and as a patient, because I am a medical card patient, knowing, there's going to be stuff that is clear and fine to take, especially when it comes to edibles. I don't want to take a 20 milligram edible in the middle of the day. Maybe someone else, they may want to take that, because everybody's body is different. But I get to know how much is true, how much cannabis I can consume based on the testing that's come out. And I also know that it's safe.
Right. That's a great point, kind of diving into the topic I wanted to stay on today. Is that it's two things. It's efficacy. Is it going to work? And how do I know? Well, there's no way to know how it's going to work if you don't really know what's in it. It's just impossible. So the labeling of the product to say that this is 10 milligrams of CBD and 2 milligrams of THC is important. Now, most of these other products are labeled, but that's about the minimum. You really don't know that it was tested. There's no certificate of analysis, they call it, for any drug or any product or any food to send in with that shipment saying, this is where it came from, this is how it was tested, and this is what it showed was in it. You don't get that reassurance. And if you're a dispensary or a grower or anywhere in the chain of the industry and you're not abiding by the rules, it'll be a short amount of time before you're discovered and that is remedied. So there's accountability on that medical side that there's just not on the recreational public side of hemp. It's confusing, but we're trying to relieve some of that confusion. So that's a great point. If any drug applies, if it's an opioid, or would you take your chances buying that off the street? Just answer that question. I mean, so it's worth it to go pay a little bit more at the pharmacy when you probably could get most drugs now off the street?
Yeah, and that's even like, again, back to your first point, is I didn't even wrap my head around that at first, is like, if you're buying even a traditional drug off the street, some people, they have a tolerance of years of opioid use, medical use, where they may take a stronger dosage because that's how they have managed their pain. Now, if I walked on the street right after I broke my leg and bought that same drug that this guy's been managing his pain with for 5 years, it may kill me. So, I mean, that's also something to definitely be cognizant of. I mean, it affects everyone a little bit differently, so you gotta know your dosage.
Yeah. Now, I know you had mentioned that you are yourself a card holder, you are a consumer, and I think that's important to note because you can see it from both sides. You can see it from somebody who's consuming cannabis, and if you ever consumed it in the black market, the inconsistencies that you've seen to the consistency that you see today, and how you're treating your elements, how you're medicating with cannabis, and just the overall experience that you're having.
Yeah, I think like the biggest thing when we talk about inconsistencies in the black market, the first thing that I would point out is when it comes to strain selection, you really don't know, or let me back up. Let's say I go and get something off the street and I really like it. And it helps me monitor my chronic pain because that's what I have my patient card for. The chances that I'm going to get that product twice are very slim. Very slim. In this medical market, I identify whether it's a gummy, a vape, a flower, or a concentrate, whatever it may be. And I know, if I go and recognize what products I truly like, one is there's consistency and me being able to repurchase that product and continue to use that product. On the street or the black market, that's not something that you're going to see, not at all. And second point would be the accuracy, which I know that Dr. Kennard has touched on already, is the accuracy of what you're getting is honestly a wild guess. There really is no and this is going to be 10 milligrams and it's the same thing. I mean, if you go and you buy brownies or edibles from someone that made them at home, they may be safe, but you really may not know how you're going to react to that actual product. So I know that and that again, that's just the reason why I believe this has been a blessing to have this opened up here in Mississippi is we have seen consistency. We can go to a store and see a product recreated and we can know, hey, this is the accurate dosage. This is what I need for myself at this point in time. While you will never get that on the black market. And then, the obvious one is that you're getting clean and tested product that you can very safely ingest and use to help medicate yourself.
Right.
And I think that the variety that we have now is outstanding.
Oh yeah.
The variety and across Mississippi in general, I mean, these standards stay true. So it's really important to note that you have variety. And if you are somebody who wants to be a little bit more discreet and you want to use, to go to sleep, that option is there for you. So it's not like going to the black market where it's so one size fits all category.
Yeah.
You can actually have your choice and choose how you want to medicate and be very intentional with how you're medicating.
Yes, no, 100%. I think that's actually something that we were laughing about is, on the black market, it's you show up, you get what they give you, and that's it. Mm-hmm. You don't have that option at the end of the day, typically. And now, I mean, in the state of Mississippi, we have some really, really phenomenal cultivators, us included. I think that we do put out a good product. But beyond that, I do think there's some really good cultivators as well as processors outside of even ourselves that have just really shown that they're taking this very seriously. And that's also, back to the first topic that we discussed is everyone inside of this program takes this very seriously. Everyone here is trying to not only make a living from this program, but service their patients. Mm-hmm. It feels like every dispensary, every grower, every processor that I've had discussion with is patient first minded. Mm-hmm. I cannot say a drug dealer on the street is patient first minded.
Calling your weed dealer, hey, I need something to help me sleep better tonight. What do you got for me?
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
And that's where the relationship really with the clinicians is so important, not only for us to have an open dialogue from other parts of the program, but also for the clinicians like Dr. Kennard to have faith in the people in this program and knowing it's his duty at the end of the day to know and do what's best for his patients. So that's why we're blessed to have this medical program and have a system in place, a mechanism in place, as Dr. Kennard said earlier, that actually tracks everything from the very beginning to the very end transaction. So that product has been tested, verified, and is accurate in terms of its labeling and what is going into the final consumer's hands.
Yes.
And, the practitioners are incredible. I know, Dr. Kennard, you have an amazing team, and we've had Cassie on here multiple times, but they are very much involved in what's happening in the community in Mississippi, the cannabis community specifically, and they're getting to know these people on a name basis and building that relationship.
Yes. My mission is to serve patients while we're calling this a medical program. That's just the way it is. And an interesting fact, and since we are one of the last states to incorporate some form of cannabis program, whether there's a couple of different terms. You have medical, you have recreational, and then you have dual use. So it's either. Well, why is there dual? Most states start out medical and then convert to some form of recreational, but most of them preserve their medical program, and there's a reason for that. Patients respect that word. They want to continue to go to their clinician because of that trust factor. Mm-hmm. So that's important. And when you start looking at the data, this is the biggest take-home point when I travel around and speak, especially to my colleagues. By the way, I'll be doing that at the end of this month at the Mississippi Osteopathic Medical Association Winter Conference at the Beau Rivage in Biloxi next week. And the take-home point is going to be, we're calling this medical. When you read studies and outcomes, you make sure you read the fine print. Was that study done on what product and what formulation? Was it street cannabis that they reported they've taken, or was this medical cannabis, medical marijuana purchased at a dispensary? Very few of them make that discerning point, and it's crucial because the whole point of what we're talking about is how can you rely on something that's unreliable? So there are studies of medical cannabis, and most of them are the ones that show that built-in safety factor. So I want to hear from my ER colleagues when they have someone that comes in with cannabis emesis syndrome, which is just this vomiting and nausea caused by sometimes in some chronic users. Stop right there, and the next question is, okay, so you're vomiting and you think it's the cannabis. What's the source of it? Are you a medical patient? Are you holding a medical card? And how long have you been doing that? And what's the source of your cannabis? Because you can't make a comparison then. I would venture and put a large wager that 9 out of 10 of those coming in with complications of intoxication from hemp or THC are that's a street product. That is not a medical patient with a card that took a little bit too much edible and then suddenly had cyclical vomiting for 2 days. That's not what we see, but you have to ask the question in order to separate the two. So the legislature may do it for us and regulate the hemp market so it aligns a little bit more with the amount of accountability on that side, but you still, there's no way to make that comparison and truly take from that data unless it's apples to apples. So through our clinics, we certified thousands of patients. And one of the most exciting things for me was building some data points, because now I don't have to ask my patients if they're paying for a card, paying hard-earned money at a dispensary, which is going to be a little bit higher price point than the street. We know this. They are unlikely to be conflating the two. I can rely on that data, whether it's efficacy or safety. Now I can rely on it, and I've got thousands of data points. So I basically said, if you can't give it to me right, I'll go find it myself. And we're building a book of data, and we're doing that in concert with the University of Mississippi, because that's what they are behind. They've been studying medical uses for CBD and THC for decades, but they're studying it from one source that they grew. And so that data is reliable. Any other data, I can't trust. So that's another exciting point, is that I'll be bringing some strong data to the table, because all signs point to, when selected appropriately and when taken appropriately, benefit to risk of medical cannabis is extraordinary. So extremely high benefit potential doesn't mean it works 100% of the time. Nothing does. That's irresponsible to say. But when it does work, the chances that it would work but cause some even short or long-term damage is extremely low. And usually physicians don't use words like extremely and almost never and 100%. That's because there's always a chance. But when in that vacuum where you can rely on every player in the puzzle, then you can say things like that. So I stand behind medical because I know what that means. I don't stand behind all cannabis and THC use because I can't. I stand behind what I know. So I need a product that's labeled appropriately, that is on a PMP report digitally from the state, where the patient told me they were on that, and I see that's what they purchased, and then I ask them how did it work and did you have any side effects. Now we're getting somewhere, and all signs are very positive. So what's the worst case scenario? It doesn't work, or it does cause some side effects that are intolerable, and the patient's just tried to make it work. I really wanted medical cannabis to work for me. Well, you don't spend your money on it, you set it down and you go on to the next thing. But you don't have long-term complications. You certainly don't die. And that can't be said for a lot of other medications. It's a beautiful thing, but it's only beautiful to have steps in the cogs in the wheel that are reliable.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%. I mean, I don't think I could disagree at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that
we're seeing people come off of hundreds of pharmaceutical pills and people who are medicating for cancer and having very little side effects. So I think that's a very big testament to the plan as a whole and also the quality, because if you are treating something as extreme as cancer, you're not going to want to go off of the street and get that medicine. You want to go right to the medicine man, the people who are actually curating it, have the quality, can ensure that there's no pesticides, there's no mold, there's no yeast, there's no other variables. Because when you're dealing
No fentanyl.
Yep. When you're dealing with things that are extremely painful, things that are causing your body havoc, you want to have the purest thing possible to be able to cure that, medicate that, give you some sort of relief. And that's just not possible getting that on the street.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's just
even in a recreational sense, a recreational user appreciates that. It's whether they have the money to make the difference for themselves. They do not deny that. No one feels good about taking drugs off the street. Don't conflict that. Even the street user's doing it because there's easy access and it costs less. They all appreciate the quality nature of this. And that's why I think when states do convert to recreational, if you can get more as a medical patient, usually they do that and they give you a huge tax break versus the recreational users. A lot of recreational users would want to be a medical patient. So it takes care of itself, but it takes care of itself because of the quality and dependency and reliability of the product. There's value in it. So
I think
people spend their money on things that are valuable to them.
Oh yeah, no, and I think that you made a good point, especially with the speaking on the recreational market. I mean, when we look at something that's like, I think the easiest comparison when you're looking at a recreational product like cannabis, a lot of people affiliate that to alcohol. Alcohol is a recreational product as of right now, and people enjoy beer and wine. But how often, now that prohibition is not around, has been around for a long, long time, how often do you find people buying liquor and alcohol off the street?
Yeah.
Never.
Yep.
I mean,
backyard moonshine.
Yeah, and even if that does happen, I mean, there is still reports of people buying moonshine and there's been contaminants in it. I mean, I think that,
right.
Yeah, I think like the biggest thing is when a state goes recreational from a medical market, not only are you opening up the program to people that maybe aren't qualified in the medical market, but you open up an area, like you said, Dr. Kennard, of reliability and trust. And you're appropriately marketing something, just as the alcohol industry has, just as other industries have. So I don't think that there's any negatives to a recreational market at all. But I definitely see the benefits of having a medical market and continuing to have a medical market even inside of an adult use market. Because at the end of the day, this is a medicine. And, I know that you spoke on the data points that y'all are studying. And that's, at the end of the day, data is what controls a lot of the decisions that we make as human beings and how we grow something like this. But at the same time, being where you sit, you see the data, but you also see the healing in person. You actually get to see the stories take place. I've seen some small pictures of that in my personal life with family members. And, here in the state of Mississippi, I've seen some really, really cool stuff happen and people overcoming pain and overcoming illnesses. And like Brittany said earlier, getting off of their pill regimen where they're taking 500 pills a day or 500 pills a week or whatever, and now they're replacing it with cannabis. So, there's benefits to both an adult use and a medical market, 100% for multiple reasons.
And I know we only have a few moments left here, so if anybody has any questions for Dr. Kennard or Joe, go ahead and drop them in the comments. And if you're replaying this later, go ahead and drop your comments anyways, because Dr. Kennard or Joe will hop in and answer your questions. But I think we've made a lot of valid points here about overall quality. And there is one thing I want to talk to you about as, a consumer.
Mm-hmm.
What are you vibing with right now? What are some strains that you are feeling that have some great quality that are medicating for your pain?
So my pain is, so just to give a little bit of a backstory, I have broken my legs on multiple occasions through sports and, just growing up as a kid, just running around and doing probably stupid things. So I do struggle with some pain with some rods or with some screws in my knee. And typically my pain is onset through, vigorous activities, or honestly, when we start getting into freezing weather like this, I've seen some inflammation spike up. So that's usually what I'm trying to mitigate. Now I have, found a lot of relief in using some full spectrum soft gel capsules. That's one of my favorite ways to medicate, especially for nighttime medication. That's really helped me sleep through the night and not wake up like with my knee hurting or something like that. Outside of that, I do prefer using flower, specifically, an indica at night. I know that we offer a really nice garlic banana strain from Southern Crop. There's also some really nice strains out there, like Mule Fuel I've seen, as well as, some daytime relief. We do offer a strain called These Lemons I really like. That's really nice and uplifting. But I have seen some other strains like Pineapple Express that, are good for pain, but also keep you very cognitive and able to function throughout the day.
I think that's important to know because the majority of card holders are here for pain. And in our population specifically, as we've seen throughout these lives, they are medicating for pain. They're a little bit of an older, crowd, but it's really cool to see somebody like you, not in pain, but utilizing the program to its benefit, breaking those stereotypes. You're a hardworking young individual who is ambitious going after your goals. So you're also medicating on a daily basis, which I find very exceptional, and it's a testament to how well this medical program is doing, and that there's no barriers as who can get their medical card other than the restrictions currently. But it doesn't matter. You can have pain at 27 years old, or you can have pain at 65 years old, but there's something there to help you medicate for that.
Yeah. And if I had to give anybody credit, at the end of the day, I would have to give the people that are part of this program credit, because I've learned a lot about cannabis over the past several months and being part of this program, being a consumer. But also, I learned a lot just going and visiting a clinic and sitting down with the practitioner and talking about a lot of these different things and what would be best and what my future would look like with this with these products. So, that's really the people of Mississippi have helped move this program in the right direction.
Absolutely. Dr. Kennard, do you have any final thoughts, questions for Joe as we wrap up here today?
As long as the industry and the clinicians can agree on most everything that we have here in this 30-minute segment, we shouldn't have any issues rising above all of the transgressions and things that other states, that we have the benefit of kind of taking the best from other states and leaving behind the worst. But in my opinion, the rapidity at which this program has been built from the passage of the law and the experience of our patients, thousands of them, tens of thousands, I can tell you that we are setting a standard in Mississippi that is unlike most other states. And that's something that clinicians can get behind. And I think you're seeing that buy-in. I'm seeing more and more buy-in. More and more clinicians are getting certified to do this and actively doing it because the patients are coming back. The sky is not falling, and they're getting these reports. Hey, this is working, and they can't deny it any longer. Even if they don't want to take the time to go read the studies, that are plenty of them out there. They are hearing these patient testimonials, and they can't deny that. And they ultimately want what's best for their patient. So even if it takes them a year to buy in, it's happening.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Kennard, and thank you, Joe, for having us, or us having you.
Yeah, of course.
It's been great and very insightful. And like I said, if you have questions for Joe, go ahead and put the comments below. If you have doctors for Dr. Kennard, go ahead and put them in the comments below, and we'll make sure to get back to you. And then we'll be back next week, same time, same place, with another topic to help you on your cannabis journey. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Brittany. Thank you, Facebook Livers. See you next time.
Bye.